Welcome to Hail Varsity Radio, the voice of Husker Nation. Insight, opinion, expertise, with the biggest and best names talking Nebraska across the state. Join the show on Twitter at Hail Varsity and at Schmidt_radio. Call in at 402-466-ESPN or 1-800-825-5865. Here's Chris Schmidt.
I'm ready for next week. I'm ready for Monday. Any win's a good win. I congratulate that team. They're well coached, physical, good football team. Coach Mo and his boys are going to have a good season. I'm ready for next week.
Well, Monday's here. Let's get to it. It is Oklahoma-Nebraska week. Hail Varsity Radio presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, ready to roll today. A few additional thoughts on Buffalo and what happens Saturday. A whole week's worth as we dive into Nebraska-Oklahoma. I want to hear your thoughts and hopes, right, or fears as a Nebraska fan. You can dial us up. Numbers to get in today on Hail Varsity Radio, 466-3776, 466-3776, 800-825-5865. Can email Chris at hailvarsity.com. Give us a follow. Find us on Twitter. Chris Schmidt at Schmidt_radio at Herbal Essence for Elijah Herbel. As we don't have the bags packed quite yet in Uncle Andy's RV. But as soon as the clock strikes 6 Thursday, we are motoring on down to Norman. Should be a good time. And we'll be there at Joe Washington's joint Friday for a live Hail Varsity. Again, our road show is powered by our friends at Arrow Brokerage and Ferris Financial Group. So excited about that. Friday, of course, Saturday, we'll be there with the weekend edition and Real Red Reaction. But a lot of time between now and when we hit the road to Norman. Coming up, a guy who played in the Oklahoma-Nebraska series, Jay Moore, our dear friend with Big Red Wrap-Up, Blackshirt Husker NFLer Jay Moore, in about 20 minutes. In hour two, we are loaded for you, current and former. Mr. Blackshirt Charlie McBride with us to kick off hour two. And then the Bootlegger's boy, Barry Switzer, with us at 5:25. We'll talk to Mr. Half a Hundred himself. As we wind down the second hour, had a pretty awesome chance to sit down with a guy that's getting a lot of buzz, A, because he's played at a high level, B, because he's so young. But Big Teddy Prochazka, super talented product out of Elkhorn South, and he'll be with us. You've seen him in at left tackle. He's performed well. His mate, Brant Banks, also made an appearance during the interview. So a little tackle talk in the latter part of hour two. You have the numbers. We can get in and dive into Oklahoma. Let me ask you this. Does Nebraska-Oklahoma mean much to you? And your answer is going to be on that division line of how many birthday candles you have on your birthday cake. That's just what it is. Or did you grow up in a family that bled red on Saturdays? My family history with Nebraska football is pretty well documented. Like many of you, grew up going on Saturdays. That was our family deal. It was awesome. Elijah, you got to watch Nebraska football and spend time with your family as well. And it's just part of you. And that's incredible. Oklahoma, Nebraska was so special to us 40 and uppers because of what it meant, what it signified, what it is, and what it was. And that was who's going to go possibly play for a chance at a national championship in Miami on New Year's Day. That was the gate, the fence, the mountain you had to climb. And whoever won the Big Eight had a date down on Miami Beach to start the new year, likely against a Florida team. So it was special, and that was your measuring stick, right? You had your non-conference game the third week of September. You had somebody that would rise up and be pretty decent in the Big Eight, maybe an Okie State, maybe a Colorado. And then there was Oklahoma at the end of the year for all the marbles. And we'll get tutored on that history with Barry Switzer and Coach McBride here next hour. We go to Buffalo. We talk Nebraska, and a lot of good things to take out of that ball game. What a freak show, first and foremost, from the officials, okay? Moving on from that. Just got to call that out, point that out. Captain Obvious, forgive me. But we asked some questions going into Buffalo. A, what did you want to see out of Nebraska? What was their start going to be like? How is Nebraska's run game going to be? What did you get out of Adrian Martinez? And I think at this point, we're all pretty well versed on just what the defense is. And the defense is the best part of the best phase of this football team. Special teams, still a major work in progress. Offense, you've got a stud quarterback and some guys that can catch the football when they're healthy. But you don't have a cohesive run game or offensive line yet. What did we see on Saturday? Nebraska's start, not great again. Buffalo had a lot to do with that. Nebraska's run game, per our friend Mitch Sherman, the running backs have carried the ball 100 times in 3 games for 379 yards. You've got a gain of 20 and a few, maybe 3 or 4 more runs of 10 yards or more. But it's a lot of car crashes when you're trying to run up the middle. When you're trying to run between the tackles, it ain't popping. And then you have Adrian Martinez, who was incredible. Here is the cold reality right now. And there's a lot of season left. There's ways to get better on the offensive line. There's ways to get a guy like Gabe Ervin, when you saw him running in the third and fourth quarter, do some nice things. You see the skill there. But here's the reality. And it was really drilled home against Buffalo. Think about that game against Buffalo without Adrian Martinez. Maybe Nebraska still wins. Maybe. But it's 7-3. Okay? It ain't going to get done unless Adrian gets it done. That is what is on this kid's shoulders through 3 games. He's ripped off a 75-yard run. He's ripped off a 71-yard run. He's connected on at least 2 passes less than a week ago of nearly 70 yards. Nebraska had to hit the big play against Buffalo. They did. And Toure got loose in the slot. But it was all set up by Adrian. You want to talk about being calm when you drop back 24 times and there's 14 hurries or hits on you, on top of what you faced against Illinois, where there were 24 hurries, hits, sacks, or pressures in 46 dropbacks. 50% cannot be the batting average moving forward, and you're going up against an insanely talented front 4 in Oklahoma. Buffalo didn't even bring a 5th rusher that often. Illinois didn't bring a 5th blitzer that often, or if they did bring a linebacker, one of the linemen would drop out zone blitz style. That is very worrisome for Nebraska moving forward. The counter to that is the fact that you've got a guy that has been able to stay calm, been turnover-free the last 2 games, and do enough to scramble, do enough to get out of trouble, and create. And I think he can still do that on Saturday for Nebraska, but he shouldn't have to do it as magically or as often as he has in the first 3 games. So, great win. And yeah, we can say, gee, great, because Buffalo's a good MAC team. You can't be worried about Buffalo upsetting you all of last week and then just kind of brush off the win. Good for Nebraska to get that done. Nebraska scored 28. They could have had 50. That's the other question I have. We'll get there in a minute. What's left on the field versus what's going to stay on the field through mistakes. Artez, thanks for calling in. Welcome into Hail Varsity, brother. I know you're geeked up for Oklahoma, Nebraska.
Yes, sir. How you doing today, bro?
I'm good, man. What do you know?
Well, I witnessed some devastating losses as a kid. You know, my brother Curtis, he never actually beat Oklahoma his 4 years at Nebraska from 74 to 77. But Roger got to win a couple games, that 81 and 82 season. So, yeah, there's been some great games and some disappointing games. You know, I know Roger actually, when we beat Oklahoma in 78, when they were ranked number one, the following Saturday, when Rick Burns ran for 255 yards, we got beat by Missouri. And Roger was actually on a recruiting visit that weekend. And so that broke his heart that day. So, but, yeah, I would definitely say that this rivalry, it just goes way back. I mean, it's unfortunate we don't play each other enough anymore, but it's going to be fun to watch Saturday.
I'm intrigued by it. I can't wait to see what Nebraska brings, and is OU as good as advertised? I think they have the ability to be as good as advertised. I'll get into some thoughts on some of my Sooner research in a moment, but yeah, I mean, it that's what it was. It either ruined your holiday or it made your holiday.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and the thing about it, you have a tendency to slip a game or two. I mean, who knows? This could be the weekend they lose one of those games they're supposed to win. So it can happen. You never know. I mean, I remember, I think it was 2000 or something. We played Iowa State, and they beat us like 9-7 because we had 7 turnovers. Anything's possible. I mean, that 78 game, Oklahoma fumbled the ball 5 times, and the biggest one was the last one when Billy Sims fumbled on the 3-yard line. I think Jeff Hansen hit him, and one of the Pillen brothers.
Jimmy Pillen recovered it.
Exactly. That was awesome. But yeah, and then unfortunately we had to play them again in the Orange Bowl, which was a joke. I'm still mad about that.
No, I bet. But, I bet Roger.
That was ridiculous.
I bet Roger and Curtis still smile about the opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah, I talked to Curtis this morning, matter of fact, and he's excited. He says, "Oh, you know what? Now, in '75 they went down there and got beat. They were up 14-7. They were undefeated that year, and Curtis actually got knocked out after Vince Ferragamo threw an interception. It was a cheap shot. It was on film. I think it was Jerry Anderson, the DB for Oklahoma. He took an elbow underneath Curtis's chin and knocked him out on an interception. He got knocked out of the game. So he doesn't even remember the Oklahoma game that year in '75. But, yeah, it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to Saturday. It should be fun to watch.
Well, come by, and if you're making your way down, and say what's up, man.
Yes, sir. You have a good day, bro. All
right, take care. Artez, good to hear from him. 466-377-6800, 825-5865. Yeah, he's mentioning his brother Roger. That should be Hall of Famer Roger Craig. That was Artez Craig on the road in his big old 18-wheeler, streaming at CSPNLincoln.com. And, yeah, I mean, it just means so much to a lot of us that grew up with it. And, Elijah, I mean, you know your Husker football history, but a lot of your mates, it's the number 3 team in the country that is going to do bad things to Nebraska. I mean, that's like the other side of the coin for a lot of the Husker football fans out there that don't know, and that's okay if you don't know. Nebraska-Oklahoma. I mean, it's been taken from you with conference realignment and the Big 12 starting that off.
I think at least my generation still at least remembers some of the good Oklahoma-Nebraska games. I think back to the Big 12 championship game down in Kansas City. Oklahoma won that one, but that was a huge game. I think back to 2009, that Prince Amukamara pick 6.
Yeah.
I remember I'm living a couple miles from the stadium, going outside, and I could hear the stadium after that play. Like,
it was shaking.
Yeah, the my generation of the college age students right now still remembers. Those who were Nebraska fans growing up still remember what Nebraska-Oklahoma means. Maybe the generation below me doesn't. But I think we're the cutoff of knowing this is what Nebraska-Oklahoma means, and this is why it's important.
Well, we'll spend all week on Nebraska-Oklahoma. A couple of thoughts here with Nebraska, and as they head into Oklahoma, what I'm anxious for is kind of living up to the moment, delivering in the moment. And what I mean by that is Nebraska playing a good football game, not leaving 20 points on the table. We've talked, it's been an ongoing theme this year, but there's part of me that thinks maybe Nebraska puts it a little bit better together, right? We know Scott Frost is a good play caller. We know Scott Frost is competitive. We know Scott Frost has a dude at quarterback. It really kind of comes down to how much help's Adrian going to get Saturday. Adrian had a lot of opportunity to force things, as much pressure as he was under against Buffalo, and as little help as he got. And, oh, yeah, by the way, he didn't have his 2 starting tight ends. He had Toure, which was great, but he didn't have Martin. He didn't have Manning. And you had a couple of guys that came in, Brewington, and, of course, Hickman's playing good ball. Hickman's playing really good ball, and he's really done well as a blocker. So Adrian just worked with what he had, and what he has is good, but they were backups. If you get a full-strength Nebraska team with Austin Allen and Vokalek, if you get a full-strength Nebraska team that actually this week either makes changes in the offensive line or the guys that have been the starting 5, it clicks for them. You factor that with Adrian, and you get him out and let him. He's been using his legs, but he's been forced to use his legs. The designed run versus the scramble run. You know, if you see a good dose of Adrian carrying the football, that's how you stay close in this thing. He creates. He makes plays. You get a lot of your weapons back. I'd love to see Omar square off against this vulnerable Oklahoma secondary. Omar's a dude on the field that athletically can match and exceed what OU's trying to defend him with. You know, anything can happen. I think that point total's real high. But let's see if Nebraska provides a good showing on a rivalry game. Jay Moore's next.
All-State, 2-year starter, and rush in for the Big Red and NFL vet.
Is Dudeness or Duder or, El Duderino if you're not into the whole brevity thing.
It's Blackshirt Jay Moore with Hail Varsity Radio.
Thanks for hanging out. It's Hail Varsity Radio, Oklahoma-Nebraska week. We welcome in Blackshirt Husker NFLer, co-host Big Red Wrap-Up, and, well, dare I say, TV timeout star.
Homegrown Husker.
Homegrown Husker. And Jay Moore is with us. Jay, did they have the delay on for Junior?
No, they did not. Luckily, he wasn't mic'd up or had any mics near. Otherwise, they might have had to catch some. We might have to been careful there. I was just telling him, you just got to stay by me because he was, we were going down there. He goes, Dad, can I run around the field? I go, no, you can't. You got to stay right by me. So I'm just glad he stayed by me. Otherwise, he's ready to start doing some 40-yard dashes up and down the field.
Well, we've watched the running game. I mean, maybe, I don't know. How is he finding his own holes?
Well, he might provide a spark. He can maybe sneak in there somehow. I don't, when the football's, he might struggle carrying the football sometimes, but it probably can't be any worse, I'll tell you that much.
With that low center of gravity, you got to think he's hard to take down.
I think he's elusive like his father. Jay Moore's with us. Jay, are you wearing the Pluck the Peacock T-shirt?
Pluck the Peacock T-shirt? No, I am not.
Okay, we need to get a handful
fill me in
of
on
those.
that.
Okay, it's the there was a Sooner player that broke hearts in 1976 named Elvis. We cannot repeat his middle name that Husker fans gave him, but it was Elvis Peacock, kid out of Miami, that was kind of a do everything like left or right halfback in the in that vaunted Sooner wishbone offense. And OU only threw the ball 2 times in 76, the birth of Sooner Magic. Our dear friend Dean Blevins came in and helped deliver the first national exposure of the hook and ladder, where the hook and ladder, the lateral, right? We've seen it since then, but this did in Nebraska in 76. And
got it.
There was a lot of gear that day, way back even before I was born, where Husker fans were wearing the Pluck the Peacock T-shirt. But man, it's Nebraska, it's Oklahoma. A thought from you first on what you saw from Nebraska-Buffalo, what you like, and what do you want fixed?
Well, first thing, I'll start with, I guess the negative. The run game's got to get fixed, and I think we all know that, and I think it's pretty obvious. I think Scott Frost said that on the presser today, and that's got to. The O-line's got to play better. They got to play better. You can you can have a lot of weapons. Nebraska's utilized the weapons. I mean, how good has Toure been? And Adrian's been really good, even though sometimes he's running for his life. The O-line's has got to play better, and I don't know if they can do anything play calling wise to kind of help them out, get things going. They got to get more creative. They kind of found something with some counteraction looking, some stuff going, in the game. Or, I really liked when they got into the I formation. After that Reimer's interception, they punched it in there. I love that look. If something, a little wrinkle here to kind of get them going, because they seem to just struggle a little bit. There always seems to be a one or two extra hats on defense, kind of right where a Step or Irvin or whoever may be need to go. So that's got to get cleaned up. The defense is playing well. I don't know how strong Fordham or Buffalo's offense. I mean, Buffalo did hang 69 points up the week before, and who knows how good Wagner is, but they still put up 69 points, and they creating turnovers, they're getting off the field, they're playing good enough football right now, and they played well enough against Illinois for Nebraska even to win that football game. But and I think Adrian's progressed well. Toure's been really good. You'd like to see some other guys kind of get in the mix here. Hopefully Austin Allen's okay. He's able to bounce back after looks like he got his bell rung there, hitting the turf early in the first quarter. Overall, I mean, this team, I've seen some nice subtle improvements on both sides of the ball. And obviously, the kicking game's gonna get better. I mean, Culp has some issues going on right now between the ears. Missed obviously three kicks that weren't that difficult this past week, and Nebraska easily could have had 50-plus points. The referees were on. They need to improve too. That crew after this last game. But the biggest glaring thing is Colt needs to get some confidence back, and then O-line needs to get things going. And they're making some things happen. It's just I think this offense, they're trying to stick with the run game, and I haven't seen a ton of Oklahoma play yet. I don't think they're world beaters on defense by any means, but we have to be able to get some sort of a run game established to make them honor Adrian, because otherwise they're just gonna. I mean, I don't know if the back. I mean, with Toure, you just load it up. I mean, you just put 8 guys in the box and say, "Hey, Adrian, you just gonna try to beat us." You might see that. I don't know, but I just would love to see this run game get going. This O-line's got to get better going into week 4 in a top 5 program in Oklahoma.
Is it what the run game's being asked to do, or is it the wrong personnel?
I don't know. I mean, sometimes it is very vanilla. I will say. A lot of it's a read type stuff. They're in the pistol, or it's nothing crazy. You are when they did get a little more creative with some counter power action, they're able to do some stuff. Now I don't know if they're keeping it somewhat vanilla just because, hey, it is Fordham, hey, it is Buffalo. Let's not get too crazy here unless we really need to, and let's maybe save something for Big Ten, Oklahoma. And I would like to think so. I'd hope so, just because it hasn't been too crazy, but just the physicality to me hasn't been there. The pop off the line, and sometimes when whether you call it zone blocking or I'm not O-line, don't have a ton of expertise in O-line. I just had to play against them for all my whole life, but sometimes you can mix it up for them and, get them pulling, get them doing some trapping, get some stuff to kind of get them in the flow of things and get them kind of moving around and get them, a head of steam going for them. So I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's a running back thing. I don't think it's, maybe on some of these Adrians could have kept on them some of these, read stuff and pulled it and bounced it. That's one way or the other, but to me, it just seems like they're just not getting enough push consistently. And Buffalo did have a decent defensive line. I mean, nothing what they're going to see this week, but coming into year 4, and guys have played. I mean, you can still say they're young. I do know Cochran and Benhart's young, but and Piper, and you saw some young players, but I just like to see some more physicality, and to me, that just comes down to the way you practice. And you get after a little bit, between on Mondays and Thursdays. So they better get after this week, because if they don't, Adrian will be, they're going to have to chuck it probably, 50, 60 times. And I don't know if we want to get into that type of battle with Oklahoma. I'd like to have us establish a run game and have to control some clock and keep this somewhat low scoring to give Nebraska a chance. But I just don't think, Nebraska has a snowball's chance in hell if, they have to chuck it 50, 60 times.
Jay, I think that the best run play for the Huskers this year has been that triple option look. I hope they bring out more of that against Oklahoma. That would just bring back images of old. But I want to move to the other side of the ball, the defense. They obviously had a great game Saturday against Buffalo. I just want to get your main takeaway from what that defensive line did. They really did a good job shutting down the run. And then also Luke Reimer, 16 tackles and Big Ten Defensive Player of the Week.
Yeah, he played solid. I mean, that interception he had was pretty impressive, getting a tip and having the whereabouts to pick it up and almost score. I mean, that was a hell of a football play. Luke he's an eraser. He's a guy that is fast and elusive, and he can kind of make some pick up for mistakes that the D-line might make or another linebacker might make. So that's a nice. You want to have a guy like that. They played solid. Have they played great? I don't get to see a ton of the tape. I've been at both home games, so I haven't been. It's hard to see exactly what goes down. I've been on the east side of the stadium, so it's hard to see exactly what's going down. Now, if I was able to sit behind, I'd have a way better view. But everyone's just playing. It looks like everyone's taking care of their job, and that's what's important. You haven't seen a ton of big plays. Yeah, they get some passes here or there, for 10, 15 yards. It's going to happen. Keep it in front of you, and you suit up. That's just going to happen. But I think the D-line, Stilley, Robinson, Daniels, those guys have played well. I think Nelson has gotten better. He's got to clean up some stuff, set the edge. JoJo Doman. I think everybody's been good. Caleb Tanner's provided a spark here or there, and they need it. So I can't say, hey, there's a glaring guy out there that says he's looked phenomenal. But I think everyone's just playing really solid football. And that's just kind of what you need. That's what I think good defensive football is you have 11 guys doing their job and taking care of it and making sure that you're limiting mistakes, limiting big plays, and creating turnovers. And that's kind of what this defense has been doing, other than maybe even in the Illinois game, they had that one drive and they got put in some tough spots with turnovers so that's just going to happen sometimes. But, as a whole, the secondary's been solid. And you got to keep getting better, keep creating a pass rush. They haven't been getting there as much, but that seems like they're getting off the ball well, and they're getting around the quarterback and causing some pressures and making that QB uncomfortable. That's what you want, and that's what you need. And they're going to have to do it again this week with Rattler back there and this explosive offense against Oklahoma. I mean, this might be the toughest test they're going to have all year, other than Ohio State. So. It's going to be fun to watch them play and see what they have queued up and see kind of different wrinkles they can throw at this offense and try to slow them down. Because I think I saw a stat that Oklahoma has averaged 42 points a game since Riley's since he's taken over. And then you have, I think, then the lowest point total they've ever scored since he's been there is 28 points. So obviously we know what they can do. So it's going to be quite the battle.
Jay, I've got about a minute here before I got to go to a timeout. I want you to stay for at least 2 minutes on the other side if you can, and I need to kind of get your stamp on what Nebraska-Oklahoma is. Not enough time right now to get your take, but you lived it. You grew up as a Nebraska kid, and while you're much younger and not as gray as I am, you still saw it
right.
growing up. So hang on for us. We'll come back to you here in just a second. Jay Moore with us. You watch him on Big Red Wrap Up, and he was honored homegrown Husker during the first and second quarter. Was that halftime? It's a blur.
It would have been the second quarter.
Second quarter. Jay and his little man. So it's good to see him. We'll be back with Jay Moore. Barry Switzer on the way. It's Hail Varsity presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
And we're back.
Fellas, think we could listen to the radio
on Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
Yes! That's awesome!
Other news today, Clay Helton out at USC. Fake Urban Meyer on Twitter has already made the statement for real Urban Meyer. Not interested in the USC opening. We'll talk about that here in a moment. More from today's press conference. Half 100 on the way here at 5:30-ish. Barry Switzer. Jay Moore back with us. Jay, you grew up as a Nebraskan. You played Oklahoma quite a bit in your career. At Nebraska as an all Big 12 defensive end. What's this rivalry mean to you?
That means a lot. You know, the first Nebraska football game I ever went to as a kid was the 1991 Nebraska-Oklahoma game here in Lincoln, where it was cold and rainy, and I'll never forget it. You know, I think I was 8. It was the first time I've been at the stadium during the fall. I've been able to go there during the summers and stuff, run around the turf, but you know, I remember like dragging my dad in early to the game before, like right when the fans could even get there. He's like, you know, you're crazy. It's starting to rain, and
you're wasting bar time, son. You're wasting bar time.
Right? Yes, exactly. But I was so excited to go, and you know, it starts raining. I think we're just soaked and freezing, you know, and we were sitting in the south end zone, and I think we left at halftime or maybe the third quarter, and then went to my. I think we did go back to a bar that maybe to like one of my uncle's fraternity houses. He was in college at the time, and watched the rest of the game there. So it was a pretty cool experience for an 8-year-old kid hanging out in a fraternity watching the second half of Nebraska-Oklahoma. I remember like Calvin Jones going off in that game, and you know that was everything, right? It was day after Thanksgiving, Nebraska-Oklahoma, and it wasn't. You know, the Colorado rivalry was different. That was like you hated Colorado. That felt dirty, right? That was you had respect for Oklahoma as much as times as they've, you know, gotten the best of us, but you always had respect, you know. And I've had guys that when I've played professionally in the NFL and that played Oklahoma, they were all great guys, super good dudes, and they always had great programs. And you know, we played in my sophomore year down there, and that's the whole Dirty Hillbilly comment by Callahan, and then, you know, they came up here and played them. We played them my junior year, and then we played them my senior in the Big 12 championship down in Kansas City. So got to play against them 3 years, and I was in the stadium as a recruit when Crouch, you know, the Black 41 reverse pass. So a lot of really, really good memories, you know, for Nebraska, Oklahoma. I mean, it's I wish we could still play every year at non-con. That'd be absolutely great if somehow they could make that happen. You know, I don't know what would need to, for it to happen. It seems like it should happen, but it'd be awesome. It is. I mean, you just Nebraska-Oklahoma. I mean, if you don't even know, you know, Nebraska-Oklahoma is like Michigan-Ohio State now, right? Mm-hmm. Like they know how big a game that is for them, and everyone's like, it was Nebraska-Oklahoma. That's just what it was, and it's too bad we don't get it anymore. We'll get it here for this year and then next year, but that's what you did. It was turkey on Thursdays, and then it was Nebraska-Oklahoma on Friday, and you know, whether it was home or away, you sat down and your whole day was around. It's like any other real game, but this one always just felt like it meant more.
Jay, you nailed it. That was my first OU game with my dad too. Was Calvin Jones, as we now have just thawed our feet, the Schmidt family, my mom, my brother, and I. But, yeah, that game was incredible. It was always the rite of passage to play somebody from Florida in Florida. And more times than not, it was a invitation to the national title game for either Oklahoma or Nebraska. Man, thanks for going down memory lane. Thanks for your insight on Nebraska-Buffalo. And you got a prediction at all early on a Monday?
Oh, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough sledding, I think.
You taking the points or laying the points?
Oh, man. What is it, 20? Is it like 21, 22?
We'll say 22 and a half.
22 and a half. I'll take Nebraska covering, but barely.
Okay.
I'm saying like an 8. Like a 38-17.
Okay.
Type of game. You know, it's 21, maybe 38. You know, is that my math right? No, it's 17. Yeah. That's not very good math. Like 30, 38, no, 21, 20, right. I'm at too many hits to head. 38-17, maybe 38-21, maybe they get some late stuff. I just don't. Oklahoma's too good. Nebraska just isn't quite there yet. I'll bet with my head, not my heart in this one.
All good. We'll wave at you from Soonerland. All right, brother?
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Take care, bud.
See ya.
Jay Moore, there he is. Blackshirt Husker NFLer, Big Red Wrap-Up. Plenty of thoughts on Nebraska OU tomorrow night. So catch Jay on Big Red Wrap-Up. But he said it perfectly with what it meant. So let's talk USC for just a second. And am I crazy, or do you just go over to the Fox football studio and grab Chris Peterson? I know he took time off and burned out at Washington, but he was good at Washington and he killed it at Boise. And he knows the Pac-12. And he recruited the hell out of California and took all the dudes up to Washington after Sark was there.
People are reporting, though, there's some Big Ten coaches that are up high on that list, too.
You've got James Franklin. Does he want out on Happy Valley, out to the West Coast? Or Fleck would, kill a family member for that job.
Yeah.
Legit. He would want that gig. Luke Fickell makes sense in a way because Mike Bone, that was the AD that was at Colorado with Coach Barnett. I mean, Bone hired Fickell at Cincinnati, and Bone's been at USC, and they made a change. And, you can't have Matt Leinart and his lazy eye piling on the head football coach at USC. You can't have your national alumni who's your Fox halftime and pregame star piling on, saying, I just can't go on like this. I'm paraphrasing Matt Leinart. But that, you don't get rocked by Stanford either. I mean, Stanford's always played SC well.
That's not a great Stanford team
No,
this year.
It's not.
Not by any means.
No, and they've been down. Hell, give Harbaugh a call.
A name I think is really interesting here is Bill O'Brien. Got up to the NFL. Didn't work out all that great for him, but he built a very, very good team at Penn State, and I think give him a recruiting hotbed like you have in California.
Oh, he's one of those guys that, we're talking 12 scholarships, and all he did was land Saquon Barkley, Godwin. All he did was hit home runs with NFL talent. And those pro guys can do it. Bill Callahan did it. But unlike Billy C., you had Bill O'Brien do a really good job at Penn State. And we're talking brutal sanctions. And he left a lot in the cupboard for Franklin. Now, Franklin's done well way beyond Bill O'Brien. But, hey, James Franklin's, he spent a lot of time at Washington State early in his career. We'll wind down hour one. It's Hail Varsity presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Samari Toure will share his thoughts on that spread and was asked a question about confidence. We'll have that momentarily. Charlie McBride with you in 10 minutes. Hail Varsity, a Monday. It's Nebraska-Oklahoma week. Barry Switzer coming up in 30 minutes. The Bootlegger's boy, Hall of Fame coach with the Sooners for some of those classics between Nebraska-Oklahoma. 70% of people in fatal crashes in Nebraska not wearing a seatbelt. If used properly, a seatbelt can reduce the risk of fatal injury by up to 60%. Your best defense in any crash, buckling up, brought to you by the Nebraska Department of Highway Safety Office. So we leave for Norman Thursday, broadcasting from Joe Washington's Friday and Saturday. So listen, I feel kind of horrific as a parent. I am making Junior's football game Wednesday. It's freshman ball. Big Southwest Lincoln East game. We'll be at Seacrest for that. But he has homecoming on Friday. And he actually got a yes. He has a date. He has a date. I'm proud of Junior. He's got a date. He's going with a friend, which is cool. And that's code for, kid, your hair's brutal. So, anyway, I'm proud of him. But I've been tasked with getting him dress pants because for the last 5 years, all he's worn is Nike shorts or Adidas like jogger pants. And he's not as tall as I am, thank God, yet. Working on it. But I don't know where to go. I mean, I've reached out to a couple of folks, Uncle Nate and company, but his waist is clearly not Schmidt ready. His waist is only a 28. Where do you find 28 pants? Chris at HaleVarsity.com. Please. And knowing him, he's going to roll up. He wants like nice dress pants and a shirt. I'm going to just stop the bow tie. He's like, I want a bow tie. It's like, you're not wearing a bow tie. No. But I'll lend him a tie. I'll get him a dress shirt. He needs dress pants. And he'll wear his freaking Yeezys. And he'll look like a goon.
No, it'll look good. No, that's the style. That's in. That's in. And what I'm going to tell you.
Speaking of generation, the cutoff line of Oklahoma, Nebraska meant something. Oklahoma, Nebraska, oh God, another primetime potential beating.
And it's the same line as wearing dress shoes or wearing a sick pair of tennis shoes,
right?
Or sneakers with
your tux.
Yeah,
right?
It looks fine. I think my place to go to back in high school, whenever you're growing out of pants every single year, JCPenney.
They're not open anymore.
Are they not open anymore? Ah, that's where I was.
I don't know. I mean,
because you don't want to go drop like, $150 in a pair of dress pants, and he grows out of them in a year.
I won't.
Yeah, no. You can't go for that. But he's probably happy that you're going to be out of town. Not like that. Just like in terms
completely.
In terms of dad embarrass him.
Yeah. My father was so good at embarrassing me for all sorts of prom evenings or homecomings. When your date walks in the door and he wants to see your ID. When your date walks in the door and he's like, he didn't hire you, did he? I mean, just off the top rope. We don't have time for two-ray, do we? To change the subject? No, probably not. So we'll hear more from Nebraska's presser today. Scott Frost's thoughts. Adrian Martinez will chime in. Don't forget, we've got the left side of that offensive line. Guys making a push. Brant Banks, Teddy Prochazka. A tag team effort with my one-on-one sit-down with part of that Husker line coming up at 5:40. Barry Switzer shortly. Coach McBride next on Hale Varsity Radio.
Welcome to Hale Varsity Radio, the voice of Husker Nation. Insight, opinion, expertise, with the biggest and best names talking Nebraska across the state. Join the show on Twitter at Hale Varsity and at Schmidt_radio. Call in at 402-466-ESPN or 1-800-825-5865. Here's Chris Schmidt.
Welcome to it. It's Hour 2. It's Hale Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, as we will get going here in Hour 2. Don't forget, part of that offensive line, some of the young pups that have been doing good work. Teddy Prochazka going to be with us, and Brant Banks in 25 minutes. Barry Switzer will join us. We say hi to Mr. Blackshirt himself, Charlie McBride for Oklahoma, Nebraska Week. Coach, how we doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing, not perfect, but good.
Well, hey, going to be a big ball game on Saturday. I want to go back to last weekend and get your thoughts on Nebraska's win over Buffalo, specifically with the defensive side of the ball, what you saw from the Blackshirts. Reimers, it's been a while, but Nebraska has a reigning Big Ten Player of the Week in linebacker Luke Reimers.
Well, that's good. That's how it starts, and that's where you start setting the tone for things. And when you get a player, that does something really good that's recognized by the conference and things like that, I think that it'll wear off on other people. And he set a standard, and and he's going to have to live up to it, which I'm sure he will, or he'll give it everything he's got. I think the way he came to Nebraska and things that reminds me of Derry Nelson and some of those guys that we had that walked on and, ended up in the NFL. And, those are the kind of guys you want to have around because, like a lot of people say, you don't check transcripts on the goal line. And so it's, he's one of those kids, that'll give it everything you have. And, and win or lose, as long as you're doing that, you got nothing to be ashamed of.
Charlie McBride's with us, Hail Varsity Radio, Mondays with Charlie. Coach, let's go to the offensive side of the ball, and Adrian was incredible with his poise, what he was able to do, hitting some big plays with his legs and his arm. But, man, I'm just wondering, how much of a jump the offensive line can make, because it's been mainly Adrian doing a lot of the damage in the run game, not the running backs and not the offensive line.
Well, when you play a team like Oklahoma, who's rated, and when you you have not been doing so good the last 10 years or so, maybe these guys realize that they're still not playing as good as they can, and it'll maybe force something out of them. And that's usually how it starts. And you go from one game, it can always be different. I can't help thinking how just going to practice and having a scrimmage, and 1 week it's the offense, the next week it's the defense, and why does it get that way? It gets that way because they don't want to be beat like they were the last time, or they don't want people to talk to them about them the last time. I know when things got bad a little bit at times, it was us against them, and it might have been just the fact that the pressure of realizing that this isn't going to be like the last two games. It's going to be. We have to be better. Now they know that, and they'll hear some ugly things, every once in a while, from the fans, and so they have to prove themselves, and that's how it starts.
Charlie McBride's with us, Hail Varsity Radio, Mondays with Charlie. Coach, as we kind of turn our attention to Oklahoma, Nebraska, what are some of your memories? There were some great matchups with Nebraska and Oklahoma, a lot of hard ball games, a lot of great ball games. What's that series mean to you?
Well, the first thing, that's why I keep saying that, that they better not just roll their hats on the field, because the way it's happened in the past, sometimes the team that's not supposed to win wins. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that they're going to look at Nebraska, and they're going to probably put all their marbles on the quarterback, and so that leaves an opening, for other things. And that's up to what their defense is. That's why the coaches have to do that, and work that out. But they still have a threat with the quarterback, and that can make them nervous. And if it doesn't, then they got a problem. And and that's why I said, if you were a coach and you were talking about our offensive line, for example, you'd talk about the young kids that are, just coming along, and be careful. And that would be my message to my guys if I was playing against a team that had a bunch of young guys up front. You don't know what kind of a pack they've signed. I remember being in college, we got our coach fired. We didn't get him fired, but he got fired when we were freshmen, and we made a pact. All of the guys that came in with my class, that we're going to win. We're going to win, and we're going to win the Big Eight. And we ended up winning the Big Eight and going to the bowl game, played in the Orange Bowl, and so forth. And it was something that we worked hard at, and when you have young people like that, they get with each other, they play with each other, and they push each other, and that's a thing that I hope that I see as the season goes on.
Coach, when you think of Oklahoma, what sticks out? What did that rivalry mean to you?
Well, it was, here's the thing. The one thing I'll say about it, at least with the coaching staff, and I've never heard our players use the word hate. Mm-hmm. It was such a rivalry. We knew what to expect. It was a matter. We're gonna see the best, one of the best teams in the country, and we have to live up to that. And and it made us better. And so they always at times, when I first went in there, were probably better than we were. But then when you take a game like in 87, 78 or so, and they had All-Americans all over the place, and they fumbled the ball all over the place. It was unbelievable, and they lost. And it was probably one of the bigger wins that Nebraska's had over the years against Oklahoma. Even though as years went on, we got better. They didn't get better. They kind of lost some coaches. They had a lot of changes, and things weren't going, the way they wanted it to. And so we got them at a good time then. But the thing is every time we played them, it was a matter that we never took anything for granted. Never. And our players never stopped practicing hard. And that's the thing I noticed about our, all the players, all the years that I've been was at Nebraska. I don't ever remember a practice. I'm sure there were some that the players thought could have been better, mm-hmm. but they always practiced hard, no matter who we were playing. And every game was a bowl game, was a championship game, and that's the way that you had to play if you were going to be a good. And like I remember Christian Peter saying, if you want to be the best, you got to beat the best. So this is a good opportunity, is what it is. And don't be surprised if you see somebody, they think this is just going to be nothing to it. They're going to be, surprised.
Coach, what was it like trying to plan for and defend that Switzer wishbone option offense?
Well, you want one thing you have to find out on who you don't want to run with the ball. Well, that was a little bit hard there, but in most cases, it was really the quarterback. Even though they had All-American running backs and things like that, it was always the quarterback that would really set the tone of the game. And of course, they ran options. They would recruit with the idea that, we're going to run the I, so come on to Oklahoma. They ran the I in the spring, and then as soon as you get to the fall, they went right to the wishbone. And I think this surprised a lot of guys, but that's pretty much what they did. I think, and but their quarterbacks were always quick, fast. They really knew the offense well, and they executed. They really executed the wishbone, beautifully. You knew that there weren't going to be a lot of mistakes in what they're doing, and they're just going to keep trying to hammer you. And, with all the guys we played, somebody said, well, who was the best quarterback? I don't know. Mm. They were, every one of them could damage you bad. And, there was they always were good defensively, always. And, I remember when I was a freshman, sophomore, went down there, and I went over the middle, and that's all I remember, going over the middle. I got cold-cocked, and that was, that was the message that they had. That Oklahoma, they put it to me. I was, if you want to see stars, I saw them. But that was a message that this is what we're going to be like. They're boss. We're going to be boss, and that's That's the way it is. But every team we played in the Big 8 Conference, if we didn't beat them 3 out of 3 times, we beat them 2 out of 3 times. And so it was, it was always a war. But again, it was always, no matter, even with me when I played, and way back when we played as Nebraska against Oklahoma, it was always respectful. I mean, we respected them for who they were and vice versa. And when the game was over, it was shaking hands. It wasn't fighting, or it wasn't any pushing and shoving going on around. It was all just played football. And that's the thing I think I appreciate about their coaches. There was never one of them or never one of us that ever criticized the other team. It was always respectful, and that's the thing I enjoyed about the rivalry we had with them.
Charlie McBride's with us, Hail Varsity Radio, Nebraska-Oklahoma week, Mr. Blackshirt. Coach, we'll let you go, but real quick, was it a little sweeter celebration when you guys would end Oklahoma? You mentioned the 78 win. You had a good run in the early 80s against Oklahoma, and then towards the end of the 80s and obviously into the 90s when they had transitioned. But you guys really, would square off against Switzer and his crew. But I guess my question is, you guys preached they all count, and you got to treat them all the same. That said, as a coaching staff, you guys had to smile a little brighter, didn't you, if you did get a win over Oklahoma?
You're kidding. You're not kidding, because I think the fans all look forward to that. And when we got to a point in our scheduling and going to another conference, and that fell apart, there was kind of a bad feeling about not having that game at the end of the year, because it was, it was really important to our program and everything else, and I think to theirs too. And when you go back through the years, it was very meaningful. And I think when you talk about coaches, you got to talk about Switzer. I mean, if there was a coach that I had to say that you didn't want to play against, he'd be it. And that's just because of the way he had them ready to play all the time. There was never a game that I can remember, even though we win, where they weren't prepared and they weren't tougher than a box of rocks. I mean, they always went hard, played hard, and you knew what you were in for.
Coach, we'll see how things shake out on Saturday. Do you got a prediction at all?
Well, I think that the only thing I can say is that they shouldn't take anything for granted. They better not. I mean, that's the whole key to on both sides of the ball. Mm-hmm. I'm sure we won't, and I think that it'll be a great challenge for young people this game. This game may be a key to how this team ends up. And win or lose, it's how you play the game, and and that's really important.
Coach, we'll check in with you. Thanks so much. We're headed off to Norman, so we'll wave at you from Owen Field. All right.
Okay. I hope they don't have the same crown they had on their field the last time. I looked the last time I remember. I looked across the field. I couldn't even see their knees.
That turf monster was notorious. You're right.
Some of those outcuts, the ball went kind of high.
That's funny. Charlie McBride with us. Coach, you take care. Be well. We'll check in with you soon, sir.
Okay. Talk to you next week.
See you, Coach.
Bye. Yep.
There he is, Mr. Blackshirt, Charlie McBride. Mondays, he's not kidding, man. Like, the crown at Owen Field when it was AstroTurf was mountainous. We'll just say that.
You can get running downhill in the option that way, right?
Well, or
literally downhill,
or running uphill, trying to stop said option. Let's talk about that wishbone with the Bootlegger's boy, Hall of Famer Barry Switzer. Next, Hail Varsity, presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
And we're back.
Fellas, think we could listen to the radio
on Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
Yes! That's awesome!
Back into it. It's Hail Varsity Radio. It is Nebraska-Oklahoma week, and we are excited to have the Hall of Famer, the legend, Barry Switzer back on with us. Coach, you're headed out to take care of your pups. How they doing?
They're doing good. These are my pets here. They're not the dogs I trained at Ground Zero, but they were in the cages, and they're raising hell because they've been in there a long time. I need to let them out go potty. Come on, Fancy, let's go. Come on, boy. And I got Saber and Bella here and Jazz, all of them. So I'm letting them out to go to the bathroom here.
So what kind of dogs are they?
I got German Shepherds, all of them over 100 pounds, and 3 of them, and a lab.
Okay.
Cats. Yeah.
Well,
but I've got about 40 dogs out at my training camp, Ground Zero, the emergency training center, where we train dogs for first responders and human remains and all that. You know, it's firemen use them, and we give them to first responders, and we're proud of what we do. We've been doing it for about 5 years.
Barry Switzer's with us. Coach, what got you into doing that? We'll get to football and rivalry in a moment.
We had the Merle bombing here. We had the Merle bombing when they had that tragedy. You know, that's the first terrorist act we've had on our soil, American soil. Was back, wasn't the trade centers. It was by a homegrown crazy guy that blew up the federal building here in Oklahoma City, killed a couple hundred people, and I lost a player in that, and he was in the Secret Service. He was in the 9th floor of the building when it blew up. The bomb blew up. But anyway, that was one of the reasons why, and it was needed, and there's only about 3 in the country. So we got, my wife and I got involved in that. She's really the engine behind it. Becky is. But let's talk football. We got a big game coming up this weekend.
Oh, absolutely. So what does Oklahoma, Nebraska mean to you? You were a part of so many of them.
And, you know, Tom and I were in the Big 8 conference. Then I think he was athletic director when they went to Big 10. See, I look at Oklahoma and Nebraska and think Big 8. And I think about the 70s, the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s. And that's the 3 eras that I played Nebraska. And those 3 decades. And so I really don't... other than that era, that's all I think about. I think about the great teams of that era, the national championships they won, and the ones we won. You know, think about that era. I think Tom and I won about 6 national championships, and probably should have both won about 4 or 5, and during that period of time. And I know Devaney won a couple during that period of time, and so. It was a great era for Nebraska football, and a great era for Oklahoma. Bud won a couple in the 50s, you know. So the 50s, the 60s, and the 70s and 80s were great eras for Nebraska football and Oklahoma football. And it built a great rivalry, and you know, we hadn't played in years. I don't know how many years it's been since we played.
11. It's been 11.
11 years. 11 years, you know, you can't call it a rivalry anymore. You don't even play every year. And so I don't look at it as a rivalry. You know, we got one with Texas and Oklahoma State, and that's it. And we used to have the greatest was Oklahoma, Nebraska on Thanksgiving Day. Everybody in America watched that one. Chris, you know that.
Oh, yeah. Barry Switzer's with us, few minutes, Hail Varsity Radio. Coach, a thought on what that Oklahoma-Nebraska game did when it came to recruiting, because you guys were awesome at recruiting. Coach Osborne and his staff did a great job. And man, oh man, what a showcase for you guys every day after.
Well, you know, the great thing about Nebraska and Oklahoma, we never faced each other and recruited. They recruited a different area than we did. Everybody goes to Texas now. Nebraska went to Texas some, but we never really went head-to-head with them. Turner Gill is about the only player that made a difference that we went head-to-head on down there that we both wanted and worked hard on. But the rest of the time, you know, we're only 100 miles from the Red River, and we've got half of our football teams from Texas, half our student bodies from Texas. And so we're we've always thought of that as our recruiting territory. We didn't have to go anywhere other than Oklahoma and Texas to be successful in that period of time. Mm-hmm. Today, that's not the case. Everybody recruits nationally today. But Nebraska and Oklahoma, we never had to compete against each other in recruiting. They went kind of east and west. East and north, and we went directly south. And so it was a different recruiting territories, but yet we were both able to get enough good blue chip players that we get them to come to our programs. And Nebraska had the numbers. Remember, they had the great walk-on program and all that. But when they went to 85, that hurt Nebraska probably more than anybody. When you had to go to 80, NCAA had us go to an aggregate of a total of only 85, including walk-ons. I'm telling you, that hurt Nebraska. It really did.
Coach, I want to get a thought. How does the Oklahoma fan base feel about Saturday with Nebraska coming in? And I ask that because of the hubbub with Nebraska maybe trying to get out of the game.
Well, I don't know. I didn't pay much attention to that. They had a contract that would cost them. They couldn't do that. Mm-hmm. But it wouldn't have been, obviously good publicity for them, but they just financially didn't make sense. And anyway, our fans look at it as, it's not the same. These are different fans from the 70s and 80s. My guys, hey, Tom and I are mid 80s, and our guys are gone on, most of them, but anyway, it's Nebraska, and that always carries a meaning with it and a respect, and they'll always have. And you can never take anything for granted. And it looks like we took Tulane for granted, and we didn't get our attention of our football team. I hope it was a wake-up call. East Carolina, whoever we played this weekend, that was that's not a fair test of who we are. And even though we won, 69 or 72, I don't know what the score was. I left, and it was ridiculous. But that doesn't determine who we are. We don't know who we are right now. We really don't. We think we're better, but we haven't proved it yet. And maybe Nebraska will be a test for us physically. And hopefully then we go on to play Texas, West Virginia and Texas. And that will be probably, Texas damn sure found out that they're not who they are. And
hey, how'd you like that? You're an Arkansas kid. What'd you think of that?
I loved it. I know how big it was for the Arkansas fans to beat Texas. It was a big game for us. It was our biggest game when we were at Arkansas. We were in the Southwest Conference then. I was a player and I coached against Texas and played against them every year. So it was a gigantic game, and that was a hell of a win at Fayetteville for the Razorbacks this week. A domination, really. And Charles Thompson's son looks like he's going to be the starting quarterback for Texas now.
Oh, wow.
And, Kendall Thompson, and he's a really good athlete. The player, Charles, was a great player. And he took over for him down there. He's the only one that took him for touchdowns, drives. So, yeah, I'd say he'll be the starter now.
Coach, 50 years, game of the century. You were offensive coordinator. What do you remember about the 71 game?
I remember that we should have thrown the ball to Johnny Rogers about 6 more times. To John Harrison about 6 more times, and he scored 2 touchdowns and in the game. And I wish we hadn't fumbled 3 times, which we did, and had turnovers. Nebraska had none, and we didn't give the ball to Pruitt enough with predetermined plays. I regret not having that in for Greg, just giving the ball to Greg north and south on blasting power plays that he would be running the ball. When I had Sims and Joe Washington, I made sure I got the ball. You have a great back, you get the ball in his hands 25 times a game. He'll make something happen. And we didn't do that for Greg, and I wish we had him. I second guess that.
Coach, Nebraska fans, and there's going to be a lot of Nebraska fans. We're headed down. We'll hopefully bump into you, but we're headed down, and we're actually doing our radio shows from Joe Washington's restaurant and bar.
Yeah, he's got a place there. I think I'll probably come by. Johnny Rogers, I was on a Zoom call with him a minute ago. He said he was going to go by, and so I'll probably do the same thing. And we'll probably see you guys, okay?
Yep, last thought. Barry Switzer's with us. When it comes to your relationship with Nebraska and Nebraska fans and Coach Devaney, has it been a good experience for you?
It's been wonderful. I've always said to my fans, I said, I hope we treat the Nebraska fans as well as they treat us, because I'm telling you, they have always been the best fans that I've ever been to and around. Win or lose, they're that way. And I tell you, old Bob and Don Bryant were always there to see me after the game, and win or lose, they came to see me. We always enjoyed our time together. We spent together. So it was a great experience. I'm glad that I had that opportunity to have that with those two. Can
I trade you some sweet corn for some Switzer wine?
You bet you can. Switzer Family Vineyards. You bet, Kevin.
Coach Switzer's with us. Coach, we'll see you this weekend. Thanks for the time today.
You bet. Take care, Chris. Bye-bye.
There he is, Bootlegger's boy, Hall of Fame coach, half 100. Barry Switzer with us, and that's a fair take. You just don't know where Oklahoma's at. You get by Tulane, you blow out whoever they played. We got it right here, I think. And what's Oklahoma's supposed to be all that. Recruiting wise, they are. They got an incredible quarterback in Rattler, but as the week goes on, we'll dive a little bit more into just how Nebraska can maybe hang around this one, and also some of the hurdles, despite talent, Oklahoma may be facing. So coming up, we will get a thought from Teddy Prochazka, Elkhorn South standout that has seen more and more action, more snaps the last couple of games on the tackle spot, and his buddy Brant Banks joined him. You've seen Banksy in at some guard, also got the start against the Illini at left tackle. So part of that Husker offensive line, guys that are working their way up the depth chart, and you heard Coach Frost talk today about that. You know what, Teddy's an option. Teddy is an option. Guy's got to fight and keep the job during the week of practice. So Teddy Prochazka, Nebraska football, Brant Banks, Nebraska football next. Big thanks to Coach Switzer. Hail Varsity presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
A few minutes with us here on Hail Varsity Radio. Teddy Prochazka is joining us. Teddy, it's good to sit down with you, and I need a few phone books, I think. But how's your experience been here? You got a chance to see some snaps in back-to-back games.
It's been everything that I dreamed of. Just kind of growing up, knowing the tradition of Husker football, and then actually being a part of it now. It's just kind of all dreams come true, and actually getting in and playing, it was just kind of a shock to me because I didn't really know where I'd be standing after fall camp and spring ball. But, I'm pretty proud of the work that I've done.
Tell me about your approach, kind of what was mapped out for you by the staff, and also kind of your own motivation heading into summer, and then obviously showing what you've shown during camp and also during the week through practice.
Yeah, I just really wanted to focus on the small things, the small details that Coach Austin emphasizes so much. And we would do O-line drills and stuff like that, and I would make sure that I was doing the correct technique that they were coaching, that they wanted to see. And another thing is just kind of getting my strength, just gaining that through Coach Duval and the weight program that we have here. It's just amazing. So throughout the entire summer, I would just little things and just getting stronger.
What's the jump been like for you from dominating like you have and did in high school to being a very reliable guy on this offensive line?
Yeah, it was humbling the first 2 weeks of spring ball, because everyone's so much bigger. They're so much stronger than they were in high school. So it would just, it's humbling, eye-opening. But after a couple weeks, it was just kind of playing football, and the more you do it, the more comfortable you feel. The more in-game reps that I get, the more comfortable I'll feel with that. And I just was so happy with the jump that I did make from high school. And even my dad, he came up and watched. He's like, you don't even look how you played in high school. And I just credit that to the coaches that we have here.
Teddy Prochazka is with us, a few minutes, Hail Varsity Radio. When we talk about that jump, that mental approach, the technique, the little things coaches always stress, I'm interested to get your take on just what you love most about playing offensive line and tackle. Obviously, you have the size and the length and skill set for it, but what do you love about it?
I'd say the dependency that the offense has on the offensive line. If the offensive line's not working and like all together, it's beautiful when it is, and if it's not, it's pretty ugly. And I just think like the whole cohesiveness of all the offensive linemen working together, doing their thing. And I'd say for tackle, you protect the quarterback pretty much, especially at left tackle. And you have, I would say, more calls than most on the offense that you have to read. And once you make the right call, and then you know that the offensive line's adjusting to the call that you're making, it's just a beautiful thing to watch.
Would you say you're playing pretty fast?
Yeah, they do tempo periods at practice, and I'm getting used to the tempo because in high school it was never as fast as tempo as we do here. But I feel like I'm making reads in enough time that I need to make them, making calls that I need to make. And, yeah, I just feel everything's so much faster, but I'm adjusting to it, so the game's slowing down more.
Who's made you better? Talk to me about the defensive side of the ball that's kind of sharpened you up.
I'd say Garrett Nelson, Damian Jackson, those two, they give me a run for my money most of the time in pass rush, and just learning little tricks and how to stop certain moves that they have has just furthered my game so much more.
Are their moves pretty vicious?
Yeah, they bring their pads. They hit you a little bit, and sometimes I get beat, and I just got to learn from that. And sometimes I beat them, and that's when they come back with some move I've never seen before, and I got a whole new way of attacking that.
Teddy Prochazka is with us, Hail Varsity Radio. Who's sitting next to you?
This is Brant Banks' father.
His father. So what's your take on Teddy?
Oh, Teddy, as Turner said when he first came in, called him Sweet Feet. He huge guy, big long levers, do good things for us. He's super strong, so just depends on what he wants to do and when he wants to do it, because he can get everything that we need him to do get done.
You like the name Sweet Feet?
Yes, it's very descriptive of who I am.
What's your take here on Oklahoma? You're a Nebraska kid. It's been, I think, 11 years since Nebraska's played Oklahoma. Some of us grew up every day after Thanksgiving freezing and going to it. But what's the mindset? What's the approach?
Personally, I would just say we're approaching this like it's just another game. Sure, it's a big game, but we're going to attack it the same way that we've attacked the previous 3 games. And, yes, there is a rich history with this program, and it's going to be an emotion-filled game most likely. And I just think if we can control that, we'll be fine.
I want to go to the locker room with Coach Austin and how his meetings go, whatever he can share or want to share, just how he corrects, he preps, and then how he kind of drills down on making you guys better.
Yeah. I feel like in the meetings he points out the little things. Like I said, that's kind of what they want to push on us, is the little things in the detail. And if he's seeing something that is not up to standard, he'll call you out for it and make sure that you get it fixed for the next practice. You want to go to that?
You answered it right. Yes, he will. That's the biggest thing we're doing right now is working on our little details, because all of us are huge guys. We can all push weight in the weight room, but it just depends on what we're doing on the field. It's small little things that are really going to make us great.
Brant Banks has also joined the interview. When it comes to cross-training, you've done well at guard, you've done well at tackle. What's that process, that juggling act been like?
Yeah, so, it really doesn't matter where I am. It's all I got to do is go out there and attack the person in front of me. That's the way I see it. Sure, there's some different footwork, some different hand leverages, but at the end of the day, you just got to smack the person in front of you and really impose your will on them, and that's what makes people good. So that's really what I have to do no matter where I am. And the plays are, all the same. You got to know those, but besides that, it's just really attacking the person.
Have you done much cross-training?
Not really. I've just kind of really been tackle since I've been here. In the winter, we do mini can sessions like walkthrough to get down the scheme and everything. And G threw me at a setter one time and fish out of water. Let me tell you, I had no idea what I was doing. So his method behind it is you got to know what every man on the field's doing. And I'm glad I'm not playing center. We'll leave that for Cam.
I was going to say, I mean, you guys are giants. You get a little fire hydrant nose guard in there. That's probably pretty hard to get. You're capable of it, but it's not the easiest thing, is it, to get low man there?
Yeah, no.
Yeah, you can answer that.
I'd say the biggest thing is just hip leverage, and if you focus on bend throughout the week in practice, it'll translate to the game. And especially since me and Brant were on the same side in the two deep, we got to just both work together on staying low and keeping our pads low, especially if we're going to get up against like Nash or DT, who are just naturally lower guys. And going up against those guys specifically makes us so much better.
Thoughts on the run game? Adrian's been explosive in the run game. The backs have, as games have worn on, really picked up more yards per carry. How's the progress been with being able to win on the line of scrimmage?
I think it's a huge thing to establish a run game, and it's just a week-by-week thing. We're going over the details to make sure it is perfect and that we can consistently get 4 to 5 yards a run, and making sure our running backs are seeing the holes that they need to be hitting to, get those yardage that we want them to get and that we know they can get. And I just think, there's a lot of season left. The running game is just going to only progressively get better.
Miss us?
Come here, brother. Give me a hug. Bring it in for the real thing.
We're on call for you. Catch the podcast at HailVarsity.com, the ESPN Lincoln app, or download them on iTunes.
Saddle up, partner.
Back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Tom should have had another national championship. I was sitting there that night and said, damn it, kick the extra point, Tom. You win the national championship if you do.
So you would
win it.
You would have kicked
the
it?
Game one, you're going to come out of a win or tie, you're going to be national champion. And I hate to see him go for the two, and I understand it. But he would have had 4 of them if it doesn't happen.
So, Coach, you would have kicked the extra point, huh?
Well, hell, it makes sense. You win or tie gets you a national championship. I've gone into games against Nebraska where the tie, all I got to do is tie, and I'm a Big 8 champion.
Okay.
And our goal is to win the championship, and you accomplish your goal. It's not just sometimes, you think about what is your goal, what are you trying to accomplish?
Barry Switzer, I mean, so many great conversations with the longtime head man at Oklahoma. Well, hell yeah, get you a national championship. He would have kicked the extra point, the Orange Bowl. Not T.O. It'll be good to see Coach Switzer. The road to Norman, Friday, Saturday. Hail Varsity on the road, ESPN Lincoln on the road. Elijah Herbel will be down there. And the outside Uncle Andy's RV looks like the Heisenberg Mobile. The inside is the mother of all glamping setups because it's been redone. So pretty good stuff. We'll be broadcasting live a cigar bar that Joe Washington's got a piece of, the All-American running back for Oklahoma with their back-to-back title teams, which is going to be cool, and excited to spend time tonight, too, with Charlie McBride. Coach was on with us a Monday with Charlie. Jay Moore, Blackshirt Husker NFL vet, gave us his thoughts on Nebraska-Oklahoma. We talked Buffalo, saw enough to be happy. It was progress. It was 28-3, and it could have been 45 or 50-3. And defense is really kind of finding their groove. We both agree it's up to the offensive line, either the 5 that have been in there or some new faces to really provide a spark for Nebraska, because they got to have a 1-2 punch running the football. Adrian's got to carry the football and do his thing. You're not going to be able to. It's not that Adrian won't or can't make plays. He will against Oklahoma. But how many can you get? I mean, think of his 71-yard run. Can he pull that off against Oklahoma? Sure he can. But you've got a whole different level of speed and talent and athleticism to contend with.
I just want to put things in perspective just a little bit. When you look at this Nebraska offense, we came into the year saying Nebraska, they need to find some explosive plays. They need to They need to clean up the mistakes, which they're getting better at. There's still some mistakes there, but there weren't any back-breaking mistakes from the offense in that Buffalo game. And then we said they need to establish a consistent run game. So they've gotten the explosive plays there. I think the mistakes are getting better game by game. The question is, can they find that run game? That's the big question that is still yet to be answered.
Well, you just don't know. Is Nebraska going to leave points on the field again?
Most likely.
You can't do that and perform and stay in this game by doing it.
I think it's a question of how many points they leave on the field, not F.
Fair enough. Tomorrow, as we continue on Nebraska-Oklahoma week, Mitch Sherman with us, Rick Kaczynski, a Tuesday with Kaz, and Grant Wistrom will join us. Talk to you at 4 on Hail Varsity.